See, verbally, you can't um, you can't effectively communicate verbally if the other person is what wants to have a fight. So how do you get out of that situation? Number one, don't get pulled in, and number two, let them talk. The people who begin with some wild random statement obviously have no logic, and they obviously have an agenda. So let it play out, right? If you give people enough rope, if you give people enough rope, they will hang themselves. Everybody, almost. It's another. It's not everybody, but almost everybody will hang themselves if you give them enough rope. It's just the way that people are with language. They don't understand it, and especially young people, especially teenagers. They don't understand the the nuances, the intricacies. School hasn't taught them. They haven't been taught. They haven't been prepared. School doesn't give them the tools to have an effectively happy life.
Mm.
School does not give students the tools for an effectively happy life. It doesn't teach people how to communicate properly. It doesn't teach them about relationships. It doesn't teach them about networking. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
teach them about the real organizations and agencies of life.
Mm.
There's very little about family there. There's very little about real spirituality or belief there. So we, my perspective is to have empathy for the students because they're struggling. When a student is expressing some kind of verbose anger or irritation or frustration, it's because they're in some kind of pain inside and they need to get it out. And if they want to get it out by shouting at me and pointing the finger at me and saying things at me,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if it makes you feel better, which I would
Mm-hmm.
not, which is something that I wouldn't say to them, but it's something I would think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every Everybody, no, not everybody. Almost everybody has an agenda, and it's not necessarily a negative thing, right? I've got an agenda when I go shopping. I've got things that I want to buy. Yeah, I've got an agenda when I go to work. I've got things that I want to get done. I've got an agenda when I spend time with my kids. I want to share experience with them and realize that learning is a two-way street. Um, so I understand that the students have an agenda. And the agenda is that they have to get through the system and they're under a lot of pressure to do that. Now, if the student wants to, if all the student knows is to be aggressive and confrontational, then I have empathy and I'm sorry for the fact that those are the skills that they've learned because it's obviously not the right way to do things. Um, so the same way that I constantly remind my children to be polite, I constantly say to my children, before you leave the table, I'd like you to ask for permission before you leave the table because I think it's polite. I'm not asking you because I'm an authority. I'm not asking you to say that because I'm an authority. I don't want you to think of me as an authority. I want you to think of it as a polite way to leave the table, a polite way to communicate with people. So, uh, we all get frustrated and we all lose it from time to time. I have the same problems with banks and government offices that students have with teachers in school. These are big authorities and organizations, and they have to be respected, but they also have to be understood as well.
Hä? Was ist
It's
denn?
hard, it's hard to have any respect
Ähm,
for people who are not going to use the right language of respect with you. So students who are confrontational, the best way to deal with it is to listen carefully.